A brutal snowstorm has engulfed the small town of Stonebridge, Minnesota. Amidst the blizzard, an eerie discovery is made behind the local library. An unidentified young man, barefoot and shirtless, lies in the snow. The body is staged in a peculiar position with a half-burned school photo in hand. Detective Rowan Hale, recently transferred from the NYPD after a high-profile case collapsed, is assigned the investigation. Haunted by his failure to save a child in his last case, Rowan finds the scene disturbingly familiar: the carefully arranged corpse, the symbolic item, the message in silence. He brushes snow off the photo and stares. It shows a group of children, their faces innocent and smiling, but time has warped their features in the image. One of them bears a striking resemblance to the town's current mayor, Grant Whitmore. A chilling recognition creeps in. Rowan's instincts scream that this isn't a random killing. It's a puzzle, a personal challenge. The victim is eventually identified as Evan Marks, a troubled foster child who vanished a decade ago. As Rowan interviews locals, a veil of silence surrounds Evan's disappearance. His presence was forgotten, as if erased. Rowan begins to sense that Stonebridge has secrets, ones people are desperate to keep buried. Echoes in the archive. Rowan brings in Tyler Maddox, a former juvenile hacker turned informant, to recover deleted digital evidence from the local library's computer systems. Tyler, now in his mid-20s, has an edgy brilliance and a cautious mistrust of institutions, a perfect asset for an off-the-books investigation. Within hours, he uncovers fragments of a mysterious program titled Protocol Lazarus. Meanwhile, Elise Monroe, a forensic psychologist with experience in dissociative identity cases, is brought in to help profile the killer. When she sees the old-school photo found with Evan's body, her blood runs cold. A child in the image, about 7 years old, is undeniably her. Her fingers tremble as she traces the faded edge of the photo. Her breathing shallows. A pressure builds behind her eyes. Suppressed memories start to flicker, shadows of a white room, a flickering light bulb, a woman's voice saying, "Good girl, Elise. Forget." Elise spends the evening trying to rationalize what she saw, but her migraines worsen. At night, she has vivid nightmares, being strapped to a chair, hearing a soft lullaby laced with static. The dreams end with her screaming in silence, mouth open but no sound escaping. Meanwhile, Tyler discovers that the city's digital library system was accessed remotely at 3:14 a.m., just hours before the body was found. Files were wiped, including security footage and local permit records. Even more troubling, the missing city laptop had been signed out by a temporary part-time library employee, who has not shown up for work since. His home is abandoned, and his online footprint disappears in one clean wipe. Rowan grows increasingly certain. This wasn't just a killing. Someone is actively cleaning up, erasing Stonebridge's history. And whoever they are, they have access, power, and a clear agenda. Triggers and shadows. Evan's psychiatric records, once buried in a closed juvenile facility, reveal disturbing patterns. He had frequent psychotic episodes, hallucinations of voices behind walls, and an obsessive fear of basements. He repeatedly drew architectural diagrams of rooms that did not exist in the school's official blueprint. Elise, reading through the reports, feels an uncanny alignment. Evan spoke of the director, a faceless authority who monitored and punished disobedience. Elise remembers the same name from her fragmented nightmares. She wonders if her nightmares aren't dreams, but memories. Rowan brings in archived building permits and blueprints from Stonebridge Elementary, now a condemned structure. Together with Tyler, they examine the diagrams late into the night. Tyler overlays Evan's sketches onto the official layout and makes a startling discovery: there is a spatial mismatch under the old gymnasium. A void in the records. A sealed structure with no listed access point. As the trio walks the school's perimeter, Elise's pulse quickens. The air feels heavier near the gym, as if the building itself remembers. She reaches out to touch the brick wall and suddenly doubles over, disoriented. A memory hits, a red button she was told never to push, a whisper in her ear, and hands forcing her into a room. Her therapist later suggests regression therapy, but Elise is terrified. If her subconscious has hidden this trauma for decades, what might come undone if it's unleashed? Still, she knows that to uncover the truth about Evan, and about herself, she must push deeper into the shadows. The basement below. One icy evening, Rowan and Elise return to the school, armed with flashlights and a map. Snowflakes catch in Elise's eyelashes as she stares up at the long-abandoned gymnasium. The place smells of rot, decay, and something faintly metallic. They pry open the rusted gym doors and find the trapdoor, just where Evan's drawing indicated. With a loud groan, the hatch lifts to reveal a stairwell choked in darkness. They descend. The underground facility is horrifying. It isn't just a storage basement, it's a lab. Rows of chairs with leather straps. 4 racks with expired solution bags. Observation rooms with two-way mirrors. A dissection table with surgical tools laid out like a forgotten dinner setting. The walls are scorched in places, as if someone had tried to destroy evidence, but many records remain intact. There are cabinets of VHS tapes, folders labeled with first names and codes. As Elise explores, her vision blurs. She touches one padded wall and collapses. A rush of images floods her mind. Being wheeled on a gurney, bright surgical lights, screams of children from adjacent rooms. She hears her own voice yelling, "No. I remember. I remember." When she wakes, Rowan is at her side. She clutches a rusted name tag in her hand, Jeremy number 0405. Nearby, etched into the wall in crude letters, are 4 names: Elise, Evan, Miranda, Jeremy. The truth becomes inescapable: the facility was part of something more sinister than anyone imagined. A place of control, experimentation, and erasure. Forgotten children. Through medical records and missing persons reports, Rowan confirms the children were involved in a covert government-funded initiative known as Operation Sigma, aimed at memory suppression and behavioral control. The operation masked itself as a cognitive development program for gifted children. Elise, unraveling emotionally, begins recalling fragmented images. A bright red ball bouncing across sterile tiles, Miranda's voice whispering lullabies at night, and Jeremy crying softly in the corner of their shared cell. She finds herself subconsciously humming a tune Miranda used to sing. The smallest sensory triggers, disinfectant smells, metallic clinks, send her into fits of anxiety and nausea. She examines a scar on her upper arm, something she always assumed was from childhood roughhousing. Now, with the mounting evidence and a specialist's review of her scans, she realizes it was an implant site. More chillingly, her medical records from age 8 are missing altogether. The operation, she learns, was designed to eliminate fear, loyalty, and eventually identity itself, creating programmable children. Elise is no longer just an investigator. She is a survivor of something far more horrific than she ever imagined. The mask returns. Tyler, deep into decrypting files from the underground lab, falls asleep at his apartment, screens flickering with half-decoded lines. He wakes to silence, and then a creak from his hallway. A masked figure looms in the doorway, face obscured by a military-style gas mask. Tyler reacts fast, but the intruder is faster. They knock him out with a sharp blow and vanish, leaving behind a disturbing symbol smeared in blood on his wall, the Ouroboros, a serpent eating its own tail. Meanwhile, Elise receives an unmarked package. Inside is a dusty VHS tape labeled Session 9A DM. With trembling fingers, she inserts it into an old player. Static. Then, a young Elise, barely 7, sitting obediently in a sterile room. A voice behind the camera, Dr. Alan Keller, guides her through psychological drills. "Who do you love?" Keller asks. "No one," child Elise replies without hesitation. "Love is pain." The tape ends with her screaming silently, mirroring her current nightmares. Rowan, shaken, pulls up records on Keller and discovers that he vanished after the closure of Thornbrook Psychological Labs in 2012. But someone organized, is still operating. And they know Elise is digging into the past. The warning is clear: stop remembering, or face the consequences. Operation Sigma financial records reveal that Stonebridge Elementary was a test site for Operation Sigma, funded through a dummy educational foundation connected to Mayor Whitmore. Elise confronts her mother with a signed parental waiver. Her mother denies ever signing it but breaks down. Tyler uncovers encrypted files connecting Sigma to other sites and links the Ouroboros symbol to a clandestine organization embedded within defense and educational sectors. The operation wasn't a failure, it evolved. Rowan retrieves Miranda's belongings from storage. Among them is a weathered leather journal filled with hand-drawn floor plans of the lab, symbols used in the experiments, and fragmented diary entries. Miranda had been documenting their abuse and was investigating after her escape. Her final entry reads, "Omega isn't coming. It's already here." Elise is devastated. She remembers Miranda's voice, her lullabies, her fear. They had made a promise: we survive, we remember. In the woods near the school, Elise remembers a game they used to play. Digging in the location, they find a rusted time capsule. Inside, small toys, photos, and a locket with all 4 children's names. One audio cassette contains Jeremy's voice reciting programmed phrases: "Pain is silence. Forget to be free." Elisa's guilt crescendos. She now knows they weren't just victims. They were test cases for something far darker. An aging ex-staff member of Thornbrook anonymously reaches out. He leads Rowan and Elise to a remote surveillance facility buried beneath a derelict barn. Inside are thousands of unlabeled VHS tapes stacked wall to wall, coated in dust. Rowan inserts one. The screen flickers to life. Children in gowns stand still in white rooms. A familiar voice narrates from off-camera, Keller. He appears in the next frame, older, thinner, wearing the same mask from Tyler's attack. "If you're watching this," he says, "then the vessel remembers." He smiles faintly. "You were always our best candidate, Elise." Footage shows test after test, psychological evaluations, memory suppression drills, emotion conditioning. Children forced to watch loved ones suffer, then asked to recall what they felt. The answer was always supposed to be, nothing. As Rowan calls for backup, the lights die. In the dark, a generator kicks in, but half the tapes are missing. Keller has been here recently, and he left a final file folder behind labeled, Omega Seed Sites. Inside are coordinates, target demographics, and school names. The implication is chilling: Keller's operation didn't end. It scaled up. And Project Omega may already be active. Trial by memory. Elise agrees to undergo regression hypnosis, though the thought terrifies her. The session begins with soft tones and guided breathing, but quickly devolves into raw terror. Her memories return with brutal clarity, being dragged into isolation tanks, water up to her chin, lights flickering above. She remembers Keller's voice, calm, almost paternal, instructing her to repeat mantras like, "Pain is not real," and "Emotion is weakness." In one particularly vivid memory, she is forced to sit still for hours while another child, Jeremy, is subjected to electric shocks for speaking out. Elise had once disobeyed and spent 3 days in a soundproof box where white noise screamed constantly. She had forgotten it for years. Now, it crashes back with unbearable force. Overwhelmed by shame, guilt, and rage, Elise spirals after the session, disappearing for hours. Rowan finds her in a snow-covered park, huddled in a fetal position. She tearfully confesses that part of her still believed the programming, that remembering was a betrayal. With Rowan's support and the team's resolve renewed, Elise vows to bring every name behind Operation Sigma into the light. The Serpent Circle. Tyler traces financial transactions linked to Thornbrook to a shadow network called the Serpent Circle, government insiders, psychologists, and military contractors funding child behavioral experiments globally. Elise decodes a list of future test sites. The team realizes Stonebridge was merely a prototype. Keller's program evolved into something systemic and institutional. Elise records a confrontation with Mayor Whitmore, who admits Sigma's success in conditioning children to obey commands without emotional resistance. He calls it a victory for national security. Before he can be arrested, Whitmore swallows a cyanide capsule. A document found in his safe is labeled, Project Omega, Phase Initiated. The underground Stonebridge facility is destroyed in an arson attack. The word, erased, is painted across its remnants. Rowan's FBI contact warns the group they're marked. Elise and Tyler are relocated for protection. The town's media spins the fire as an accident. Survivors of Sigma begin to emerge, but most are too afraid to speak. Keller kidnaps a child from a nearby town. Elise receives a video of the girl locked in a room, mimicking the same programming she once endured. Elise, Rowan, and Tyler track Keller to a Cold War-era bunker. In a tense rescue, they save the girl, but Keller escapes once more, laughing that Project Omega has already gone live. Elise testifies before Congress about Operation Sigma and the psychological torture of children. Tyler's AI system flags over 60 learning institutions running similar experimental programs under new names. 14 are shut down. However, evidence emerges that new programs are rebranded and relocated faster than they can be stopped. Elise launches the Memory Vault, an encrypted online archive where survivors of behavioral experimentation can anonymously submit their stories, evidence, and supporting documentation. With Tyler's cybersecurity expertise and backing from international whistleblower networks, the platform spreads rapidly across investigative circles and survivor communities. Within days, the site garners national media attention. Podcasts, blogs, and independent journalists flock to it. Survivors in other cities begin coming forward with eerily similar accounts: underground rooms, childlike conditioning, loss of memory, recurring dreams. One woman from Nevada sends in scans of a chip found in her shoulder, dated to the same Thornbrook era. The vault's front page features Elise's anonymous testimony, "I forgot to survive. I remember to fight." Government agencies remain silent, but behind the scenes, Rowan's contact in the FBI says internal investigations have quietly begun. Elise becomes a symbol of resistance, though she refuses all interviews. Publicly, she vanishes. But her work continues through every testimony uploaded, every secret unveiled. The boy in the box, a janitor in Oregon, finds a sealed crate in an elementary school's storage room. Inside are old tapes of children reciting behavioral mantras. One child says, "If I forget, I get candy. If I remember, I get hurt." One voice is Elise, reading a story. The crate is confiscated by men in black suits. The incident never makes the news. Tyler upgrades his software, Veil, to track Omega-related phrases and funding chains. He flags 63 institutions but is warned anonymously, the serpent sees. He stores the data offline. A file marked Elise 01 prototype, Omega seed confirmed, appears on his system. Someone still has access to everything. Rowan anonymously publishes The Shadows of Stonebridge, revealing the entire operation. The exposé blends his first-hand narrative with declassified documents, psychological profiles, and survivor testimony. The book becomes a phenomenon, translated into 12 languages, discussed on global panels, and even adapted for screen. But still, no official government acknowledgement ever arrives. In a preschool art class in Chicago, a young girl draws a snake eating its tail, an Ouroboros. She tells the teacher it came from her dreams. The teacher pauses, unsettled. She remembers a whisper from an anonymous forum, "Look for the sign." The seed is planted young. She quietly tucks the drawing into a file labeled Omega 03, initial compliance. Far away, Tyler receives an alert. Someone accessed a hidden protocol on Veil. He opens it to find a photo, Elise as a child, standing in front of the Stonebridge facility, with one line, "Still watching." The cycle hasn't ended. It's evolved.